Bank.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment. This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory. Don't miss my big opinion. Mark meets and my take at 10. Democracy is a funny old thing. And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it. Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it. That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening. It is 9 o'clock on television, on radio and online in the United Kingdom and across the world. This is Mark Dolan Tonight. In my big opinion, as America chooses growth, freedom and prosperity under Trump, this tax-raising Labour government is going for broke. Britain has taken a very different path and we will all pay the price. I've got some tragic stories about UK businesses closing down since that budget, which will truly shock you. In the big story, is Donald Trump about to chuck Prince Harry out of America? And what would Margaret Thatcher make of the new US president-elect? Well, I'll be asking her former top advisor live from the United States shortly. As he leads our nation in grief and gratitude for our war dead on Remembrance Sunday, I'll be joined by the author of a brand new up-to-date biography of King Charles. We'll be joined by legendary journalist Robert Hardman before the end of the hour. And in my take at 10, Donald Trump's stunning election victory is a victory for Britain too, as it spells the end of eco-extremism, open borders and hated political correctness. Yes, folks, the future's bright, the future's orange. Reacting to the big stories of the day, my all-star panel. We have political commentator Annunziata Rees-Mogg, former Tory MP Sir Michael Fabricant, and TV news legend Michael Crick. So, a busy 2 hours to come, folks. Big debate, big entertainment, and we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it. So, some shocking news about businesses folding since the budget. Just wait for that, folks, straight after the headlines and Sophia Winsler.
Mark, thank you. Good evening. It's just gone 9 o'clock. These are your headlines from the GB newsroom. To the US now, where it's understood Donald Trump has held a phone conversation with the Russian President Vladimir Putin to discuss the war in Ukraine. US media is reporting that Trump warned Putin not to escalate the conflict. It comes as Joe Biden is reportedly set to make a personal plea to Donald Trump about the importance of funding Ukraine. It's understood the outgoing president will urge Trump not to walk away from Ukraine when the pair meet in the Oval Office on Wednesday. Elsewhere, Israel's Prime Minister says he and Donald Trump see eye to eye on Iran. Benjamin Netanyahu said he has spoken to the US president-elect 3 times since the election. The nation has fallen silent as the King led a 2-minute silence to mark Remembrance Sunday and honour fallen soldiers at 11 o'clock this morning. Big Ben chimed 11 times and the last post was played before King Charles, dressed in his Royal Navy uniform of the Admiral of the Fleet, laid a wreath at the cenotaph. He was joined by members of the royal family, including the Prince and Princess of Wales. The Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, and the leader of the opposition, Kemi Badenoch, both laid wreaths. They were also joined by former Prime Ministers. Today is also the first time since the start of the year that the Princess of Wales, who is recovering from cancer, is carrying out 2 consecutive days of public official engagements. 10,000 veterans have marched past the cenotaph as part of the Royal British Legion's parade. In London, a manhunt is underway after a shooting left 1 person dead and 2 injured. Officers were called to Wells Park Road in Sydenham this morning, where they found a man with gunshot injuries who died at the scene. A woman and a 3rd person were taken to hospital with what are also thought to be gunshot wounds. No arrests have yet been made so far over what the Metropolitan Police are calling a senseless act of violence. And dozens of pro-Palestine demonstrators have been detained by police in Amsterdam after ignoring a ban on public protests in the Dutch capital. Hundreds of demonstrators defied the ban to gather in Dam Square, chanting demands for an end to violence in Gaza and free Palestine. But police moved in, instructing protesters to leave, and several people were dragged away. The 3-day ban was imposed by the court from Friday after Israeli football fans were targeted in a so-called hit-and-run attack on Thursday night. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now it's back to Mark.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Sophia. In my take at 10, why Donald Trump's victory is great news for Britain. But first, my big opinion. Good evening. Now, amid all of the excitement around the US election result this week, it's worth remembering that whilst the Americans have chosen an orange president, our red prime minister is currently destroying the country. Don't take my word for it. Following Rachel Reeves's budget for growth, an Orwellian example of doublespeak if ever there was one, Sainsbury's, Marks and Spencer's and BT have said that they will likely have to raise prices. And the boss of the Wetherspoons pub chain, Tim Martin, said all hospitality businesses will now have to charge customers more just to stay afloat. Meanwhile, the polyester palace that is Primark, which I'm currently wearing tonight, you're welcome, be careful, I'm flammable, they say that they may now have to invest more overseas due to the weight of tax rises. Sainsbury's boss Simon Roberts has revealed a £140 million hit from Rachel Reeves's national insurance tax raid, which will inevitably be passed on to their brilliant staff and you and me when we buy our fruit and veg following this lemon of a budget. Retailers also face higher labour costs after the government increased the national minimum wage, which of course is a lovely policy, but it means that inflation will go up and layoffs are inevitable, particularly among smaller firms. Now, Sainsbury's Simon Roberts is a great CEO and will do his level best to protect staff and customers. But he has admitted, and I quote, there just isn't capacity to absorb all of this. Meanwhile, that wonderful budget for growth announced by Rachel Reeves, which makes Liz Truss's budget look like a masterclass in economics by comparison, has seen the OBR revise down Britain's growth expectations. How can a budget for growth immediately lead to lower growth? Make it make sense? Well, of course, it doesn't. And this week, the Bank of England have said that inflation will now go up slightly and will have to wait a year longer than previously expected for prices to reach the target of 2%. How this is a win for the country is anyone's guess. Meanwhile, farmers have been thrown under the tractor with an inheritance tax raid that threatens future food supply. Farming is one of the hardest and least financially rewarding industries out there. I truly adore Jeremy Clarkson, a total hero. But the only real money that he makes at diddly squat is the fat check that he receives from Amazon Prime, who make his fantastic TV show. Our farmers, that's right, real farmers, are true national heroes. And the bottom line is that any offspring mad enough to take on the family farm should not have to pay tax when they do so. The alternative is obese health guru Bill Gates buying up the land for solar panels or fake meat or something. Even the mild-mannered and politically neutral Paul Johnson from the Institute for Fiscal Studies is raging at Labour's continued claim to have not raised taxes. Writing on X this week, he said, seriously, I know this was in the Red Book and I'm no expert on rules covering what government departments can say and cannot say. But at best, this is dubious, and that is being generous. Increasing national insurance was the central tax-raising measure in the budget. What is the point in pushing this line? Good question. Now, many won't worry about Sainsbury's, Marks and Spencer's and Primark, arguing that they've got millions. Well, it's clear that their workers, who are not millionaires, will likely be made poorer as they shoulder some of the cost of these tax increases via lower wages, cancelled bonuses and even the sack. And businesses are already shutting up shop. Over the last 4 weeks alone, more than 1,600 company directors have chosen to wind down their businesses. Take Kevin Hancock, managing director of the modestly sized Connectix Cabling Systems, who told The Telegraph this week that the Chancellor's national insurance tax raid and lifting of the national minimum wage had made manufacturing in Britain not viable. The specialist cable manufacturer, which had revenues of £50 million in 2023, exports fibre optic cables to internet providers around the world and employs 150 people in its British factories. But the company has now decided to outsource production to India or China following this new Labour government's first budget. Well done, everyone. Under Donald Trump, the Americans have voted for boom. But under Starmer, we're going bust. Your reaction, gbnews.com/your say. But first, tonight's top pundits. We have political commentator Annunziata Rees-Mogg. We have the former Conservative MP, Sir Michael Fabricant, and TV news legend, the one and only, the marvellous Michael Crick. Michael, good to see you. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
This has been a dog's dinner of a budget, hasn't it? And it's the gift that keeps on giving for Labour's critics.
Well, I don't agree with everything in the budget. I think they did go too far on employers' national insurance contributions and on inheritance tax for farmers. I think there's a lack of... I think the problem the Labour Party has is they got far too few people who have experience of running businesses and knowing anything about farming, although now they've got 100 MPs who've actually got quite rural constituencies. But hey, what's going to really damage the British economy is if Donald Trump goes ahead and puts 20% tariffs on. And for a free marketeer like yourself, you should have mentioned that. You didn't. Why not?
Well, Trump's tariffs are a problem, which is why actually Brexit is a potential opportunity. As an independent sovereign nation, we can strike an individual trade deal with America to avoid those tariffs.
If we were still in Europe, we could join with the Europeans and we could have a lot more muscle. And there's going to be a whole range of issues over the next 4 years, where if we were still in Europe and working together with Europe, then we would be in a better position than going it alone.
OK, Michael, you're shaking your head.
Yeah, I don't agree with this at all, because one of the problems that Trump identified last time round was that East Europe has incredibly low wage costs. And Eastern Europe is the very area that he feels competes unfairly with that of the United States. The point that you make, Mark, is bang on, because the view in the Trump Republican Party is that, you know what? Wage costs in the US are similar to that of the UK, so there's a far greater possibility of our actually forming a trade deal.
And also, we sell mainly services to America rather than cars and other sort of manufactured goods.
Yeah, that's right.
We're no threat to Detroit, Michigan, are we?
No, and it would be fair competition if there were, because our on costs are the same. Eastern Europe is not the case, and that is why they were never going to do a deal with the European Union. Okay. Particularly as there are unfair subsidies as well done by the European Union. Some would argue in breach of the World Trade Organization rules, and certainly not trusted by Donald Trump.
Indeed. Listen, we're still feeling the after effects of this Rachel Reeves budget, aren't we? And it just breaks my heart to see companies like Sainsbury's, Marks & Spencer and Primark suggesting that they may have to invest overseas, they may have to lay off staff, not hire new staff, or possibly even cancel bonuses.
And I think there will be an awful lot of cutting hours. Productivity will be expected to increase on reduced hours, which will cut workers' pay packets, and I think that's a really big worry.
Because Sainsbury's, for example, they've got to find 140 million from somewhere. People think they're worth hundreds of millions, but actually the margins that supermarkets are working at are very tight.
Are very tight. It's a very competitive market. They can't just push prices, and if they do, we all pay for that through inflation. It is quite remarkable to have come out with an anti-growth, pro-inflation budget. That you would normally expect that if you're stimulating growth, you're also stimulating inflation, that the two kind of go together. Rachel Reeves has managed to pull off doing the two bad things at the same time. This makes it one of the most disastrous budgets. We will all feel it. That growth in this country, if you look at the capital gains tax, which we haven't gone into yet, people aren't going to be investing in new factories, in new production, in higher productivity. That will hit our GDP, and it will hit every single person's pocket, simultaneously to prices going up, which will in turn cause interest rates to increase, mortgages to go up, house prices to fall. We are in for the exact opposite of what our country needs right now, at the exact moment that America is doing everything it can to boost it. But I think that one of the big mistakes is to try and set us up as two great competitors, that we're much better off out of the EU because we can talk to them as friends and allies. It shouldn't be them versus us.
And they can negotiate with one...
It should be we want America to be great and we want Britain to be great.
And then they can negotiate with one nation, not 27, which is like herding cats, isn't it? Michael, to be fair to Sir Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves, this is the economic inheritance that they have from the Conservatives, isn't it? They don't want to raise taxes.
No, I mean, Labour overpromised, in my view, and in the end they didn't have to. But if in the unlikely event that Jeremy Hunt came back, he would have had to have done something, which
probably
would have had a
austerity,
cuts or rises in taxes, or one of those things, which equally has a dampening effect on the economy. So it was going to be, unless you're going to make drastic cuts.
The Tories would have dented growth as well.
They gave away, and by they I'm talking about old Labour, because let's not be in any doubt this is an old Labour administration.
With a huge mandate to govern.
With a huge mandate to govern. And what do? They spent £20 billion, and funnily enough, that's supposed to be the black hole, on buying off the trade unions for nothing in exchange.
Michael, I was on a train today, I was hoping to catch a train this morning, which was cancelled because there wasn't a driver, there wasn't staff. Now, how would you go and get train drivers without giving train drivers a pay rise?
Well, that's right. The Tories would have had to have done a deal with the junior doctors and with the train drivers.
I'm not so sure we did, because if you remember, with Jeremy Hunt, there was a junior doctors dispute, and Jeremy Hunt actually saw them down when he was health secretary. Okay. No, I don't agree with this at all, and the idea that there's a shortage of drivers because of that. There's a shortage of drivers because there's been a lack of training being done by some of the companies.
Well, that may be true as well, and indeed,
but this is an old Labour government. I'll give you a reason why. Tony Blair would not touched with a barge pole, and it was offered to him, this idea of breaking up farms with getting rid of inheritance tax loopholes.
Look, I think it's very clear that Labour wouldn't want to raise taxes, but they've been forced to as a result of the economic inheritance that they've received from the Conservatives. But what's your view? gbnews.com/your say. What I will agree with Michael on is I don't think their approach going forward is working. Look at the OBR, downgraded growth, and now firms are closing. Folks, some good news. Just 2 weeks left to grab a chance to win Christmas on us in the Great British Giveaway. That's £25,000 in tax-free cash, plus a whole host of Christmas goodies to ensure that you have a fantastically festive time. And the best news is we'll get it to you in time for the big day. So time's running out to get your entry in. Here are all the details. OK, coming up next in the big story is Donald Trump about to chuck Prince Harry out of America. And what would Margaret Thatcher make of the new US president-elect? I'll be asking her former top advisor live from the United States next. Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
Patrick Christie's Tonight. Weekdays from 9 p.m.
We all know that pensioners will freeze to death this winter because of the cruel cut to the winter fuel payment, rising council tax, the energy price cap going up, all of that. Now, instead of looking after them, we appear to have a government that seems to want to make their lives worse. Now, they might not care, but you do. And thanks to you, I have now raised more than £270,000 for Friends of the Elderly. You have raised more than the entire amount they gave away in grants for the most desperate pensioners last year. So amazing effort. Thank you very much. Now, I said I'd do a freezing cold swim to raise awareness for how cold some pensioners will be in their own homes this winter. And on Saturday, I went to Stickle Tarn in the Lake District. I'd like to give a massive thank you to the people who turned up to meet me along the way. I would also like to give a monumental shout-out to the wonderful camera crew. We've got John Clark and Joe Scowen, and our health and safety maestro, known only as the Stag. I come up with these crackpot ideas, but it is down to those wonderful people to make them actually happen. I would also like to give you a little warning. There are aspects of this footage that you will not be able to unsee. I am aware that at times my body resembles a bag of milk. But you know what? If me embarrassing myself helps to raise a bit more money, then so be it. And you can go to justgiving.com/page/Save Our Seniors now to donate.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It is time now for the big story. And Prince Harry will very likely be held to account by Donald Trump if he lied about drug use on his visa application, according to a foundation fighting for the release of his immigration records. Now, the Duke's application to live in the US came under scrutiny after he admitted in his memoir Spare to using drugs, something that he would have been required to disclose in immigration documents. Niall Gardner, director of the Heritage Foundation's Margaret Thatcher Centre for Freedom, sued the Biden administration for release of the Duke's visa application. But a federal judge in Washington ruled last month that it should not be released to the public. However, does the election of Donald Trump pose a fresh new headache for Prince Harry and his legal status as a US citizen? Well, I'm delighted to say that the aforementioned Niall Gardner from the Heritage Foundation joins me now. Niall, good to see you again. Why might a change of president be significant here?
Great to see you, Mark. Thanks for having me on the show today. I do think that Donald Trump's election as president is a real game changer, and it will be really at the discretion of the president to decide whether or not Harry's records are released. We have called for the release of Prince Harry's records. The Biden administration has fought tooth and nail to protect Prince Harry's privacy, as they call it. And it's certainly our view, I think, that the next US president who comes in January should release those records to the American people so they can judge for themselves what is exactly inside Prince Harry's immigration application. And I think that Donald Trump has made it very clear in the past that he would not protect Prince Harry, that he would take appropriate action against Harry if he lied on his application. So let's see whether Harry was honest and truthful in his application. If Prince Harry has nothing to hide, he should fully support the release of his own records.
Does President Trump hold any animosity towards Prince Harry, do you think, Niall?
I think that's really a question for President Trump himself. But I think that Harry and Meghan certainly have not helped themselves by, in the past, backing Democratic candidates. They did not get involved, of course, in this year's election, but in the past, they have sided with a lot of woke left-wing causes. Meghan Markle, of course, has been a big critic of Donald Trump in the past. So I do think that, generally speaking, Harry and Meghan are hugely unpopular among the American people, but especially with US conservatives. They are very unpopular figures. And Meghan has made a number of attacks on Trump in the past, which certainly cannot, I think, in any way benefit the cause of Prince Harry in the United States.
Is it conceivable that Prince Harry could lose his citizenship and be thrown out of America?
Well, so Prince Harry, of course, is not a US citizen. Meghan Markle.
Oh, I see. I stand corrected. So, yeah, he's still a British passport holder. He obviously hasn't renounced that. Can you not have both?
Yeah, no, you certainly have both, but Prince Harry is not a US citizen. We're not sure exactly what kind of visa he is on in the United States. That's not been revealed, but I do think that Prince Harry will be fully held to account by the next president.
Interesting stuff. So it's all about that visa and whether he hangs on to it or not. Fascinating, Niall. Well, I know you'll be pursuing that further with the Heritage Foundation simply because you want the truth, and more power to you. Can we talk about Tuesday and that big result in the States? Some Conservatives are divided over Donald Trump, aren't they? Figures like Michael Gove backed Kamala Harris, as did Dick Cheney, who served under George W. Bush. So would your former boss, Margaret Thatcher, Lady Thatcher, have been a Trump supporter?
Well, I think Lady Thatcher would have actually got on very well with Donald Trump. And I think that she would have worked very closely with him. And if you look at the alternative to Trump as president, Kamala Harris as president of the United States, and I'm in no doubt that my former boss, Margaret Thatcher, would have viewed Kamala Harris as a very dangerous, ultra-woke, far-left figure. And Margaret Thatcher would have hated, I think, everything that Kamala Harris stands for. And she would have been mightily relieved that Donald Trump is the president, the next president of the United States, and not socialist Kamala Harris. So I do think the Iron Lady would have got on very well with Donald Trump. They would have had very robust discussions, I'm sure, but she would have been very pleased by the fact that the socialists are not going to take over the United States with Kamala Harris as president. I think that is the reality.
Indeed, although as a passionate advocate of free markets, she wouldn't have looked fondly on his protectionism, would she, or his enthusiasm for tariffs?
Yeah, she was very opposed to tariffs unless they're being applied to enemies of the free world like China, for example. Lady Thatcher was a strong supporter of economic freedom, free markets. I think Donald Trump overall is. And I do hope we're going to see a US-UK trade deal concluded in the next few years. But of course, we've got useless Keir Starmer as the Prime Minister of Great Britain at the moment. And Starmer, I think, is going to be in the doghouse, frankly, as far as Donald Trump is concerned, not least with 100 Labour activists campaigning for Kamala Harris in the US presidential election, a catastrophically stupid move by the Labour Party. And of course, Keir Starmer has not apologized for this. And you also have the likes of David Lammy, Foreign Secretary, who's called Donald Trump a neo-Nazi sociopath in the past. So all of this doesn't help. And I think that Trump undoubtedly will view Keir Starmer as a woke lefty. And I think that Trump will seek to work very closely with conservatives in the United Kingdom rather than with the socialists.
That's interesting. Of course, Keir Starmer will argue that he's had successful meetings with Donald Trump. They spoke on the phone in the last couple of days. And Donald Trump was quoted as saying, "You will always have a friend in me." Do you not think that if Keir Starmer managed to get a trade deal with the US across the line, that would actually be quite a positive for the Prime Minister and perhaps reboot his own premiership?
Well, I think a US-UK trade deal would be a huge positive, and a lot of the negotiations were already conducted, of course, under the Conservatives previously with Trump when he was president. But I have very little faith in Keir Starmer's, willingness and ability to put in place a trade deal. I think the socialist government in the UK right now is a disaster for Britain. It's disastrous for the special relationship with the United States. US conservatives have a very negative view of Keir Starmer and his ultra-woke government. And so I do think Starmer's going to have a very, very tough time. And Donald Trump has very little tolerance for far-left woke lefties like Keir Starmer.
There you go, damning words from the former personal aide to Lady Thatcher, Niall Gardner. Niall, thank you so much for joining us. We'll catch up soon. Your reaction, gbnews.com/your say. Next up, after yet another stabbing this morning in a street market, leaving one man dead and two others badly injured. In a Mark Dolan Tonight exclusive, I'll be revealing that police officers are now so scared of being injured by knives that demand for cut-resistant gloves to protect cops has seen a 5,000% rise. I'll be revealing the shocking details of this knife crime epidemic next.
Good evening. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. It's been another cloudy day for many of us, but there is some bluer skies and some brighter weather on the horizon as we head into the new working week. We do still have a weather front to contend with through the rest of today, though, continuing to slip its way southwards across the UK through the end of the weekend. And then it's this area of high pressure developing out towards the west that brings us those sunnier skies into next week. So this weather front out in the south of the UK continues to sink its way southwards, still bringing some cloudy skies and some outbreaks of rain to the southern portion of the UK overnight and into the early hours of Monday morning. But further north, a different story. Plenty of clear spells and turning quite chilly under those clear spells too. We could see temperatures dropping into the low single figures. But generally staying that little bit milder under that cloud in the very far south of the UK. And that does mean quite a cloudy and damp start, particularly for southwestern parts of England through Monday morning, with some outbreaks of rain and drizzle across the hills. For the rest of England and Wales, though, generally a dry and bright start to the morning. For Northern Ireland, still staying dry, but perhaps a bit of mist and fog around to start first thing. And for Scotland, also a dry and bright start to the morning, although maybe one or two isolated showers across parts of Shetland and Orkney first thing. So generally staying dry and bright through much of Monday morning, plenty of sunshine on offer. That weather front does eventually sink its way southwards across the southwest of the UK, so plenty of sunshine across the board as we head in towards Monday afternoon. There might be one or two isolated showers just across eastern parts of England, but these generally quite light and quite scattered. And despite temperatures being round about average for the time of year, it will be feeling pleasant in any of that sunshine. The sunshine continues through the rest of Monday and staying dry and clear overnight. So that does mean quite a chilly start for most of us on Tuesday morning. Maybe some mist and fog around, but otherwise another dry day across the board. Plenty of sunny spells on offer. Maybe 1 or 2 isolated showers still clipping across the very far southeast, but there should be more sunshine on the way as we head through Wednesday and Thursday as well. And temperatures will generally be staying around about average, but definitely feeling pleasant in the sunshine.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
After yet another stabbing this morning in a street market, leaving 1 man dead and 2 others injured, we can exclusively reveal that police officers are now so terrified of being injured by knives that demand for cut-resistant gloves to protect cops has seen a 5,000% rise. Let's get reaction from Lee Marks, who is the CEO of anti-slash clothing company Blade Runners, who are supplying police forces with this life-saving equipment. Lee, good to see you.
Nice to meet you.
Now, listen, your background at Blade Runners is bulletproof vests and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But you've changed your business model.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. Well, we've been supplying bullet and stab-proof equipment for the last 30 years, mainly to the press they were in Iraq. We supplied them with bulletproof Land Rovers. Now in Gaza and Ukraine, we're supplying the press vests that are bulletproof. But our inventory has changed over the last year because there is such a huge problem with knife crime in this country. 50,000 knife-related crimes in this country this year so far.
And those are the ones reported. We can imagine that the real figure would be triple that.
Could well be. And the problem with knife crime is if you are approached by an assailant with a knife, your automatic reaction is to grab the knife by the blade.
Right.
Now, we always say to people, the first thing to do is to run. You do not want to get involved. If you can run into the nearest occupied shop or whatever building, that is the thing to do. But if you can't do that, the problem is you try and steer the knife away from your body. And the injuries to the hands are horrendous. So we have developed a range of gloves for security, for police, and for members of the public that will allow you to grab a knife by the blade. That is extremely sharp.
And the blade will not cut through the glove?
The blade will not. So, I mean...
Yeah.
You can see
You're
that.
doing your best there.
I'm doing my best. You can see it's going through part of the way.
If anyone's having their dinner, by the way. This would be quite unsettling.
Right. And it'll keep your hand safe, and it enables you to grab the blade and steer it away from your body.
And this is what cops are ordering in their thousands.
Well, yeah, we're selling...
do you think we need them as members of the public? I mean, should we all have gloves like this?
It depends on your circumstances. If you live in an area where there are gangs and you're worried about it, then, of course, we never advocate that people should be that worried that they need to go around, protecting themselves with this type of thing. But there is a demand for it, and there's a huge demand for it, and we're meeting that demand. It's horrible that we have to make money out of this type of situation.
Indeed.
But we've been doing this for 30 years, and we've just adapted to changing circumstances.
What does the need for this sort of protection tell us about where British society is going?
Knife crime is a major... You've just reported today on someone who was killed with a knife.
In the East End, yeah.
Yeah. You can't... And by the way, stab-proof clothing, we sell a lot of clothing that is anti-slash. But because it's anti-slash, it's not anti-stab. And you see the police wearing these very thick anti-stab vests, which an ordinary member of the public would never wear. So we've developed something that is extremely thin. It's called our ultra-thin stab vest.
Right.
If you don't mind, can I show you
Go on
again?
then, shall I model it?
No.
You're not being...
I don't want to take responsibility for you.
I'm heavily insured.
OK. So, I mean, no, I'm sorry
James,
to do this.
if anything happens, you get all the Elton John CDs. OK. Oh, my goodness. So look at that. I mean, this is a really sharp knife.
It's really sharp.
OK.
Yeah.
Did you all get a good view of that there? Did you see that? You did, didn't you? That was
Don't
that
ask
was really
me to do it
powerful.
again.
No, I definitely won't. How easy is it for somebody to stab another person? Is it an effective weapon?
It's a very effective weapon. It's the easiest thing in the world. I mean, if you've got a knife, and people can go anywhere, they can go into any shop and buy a carving knife. I mean, they've stopped the zombie
any knife
knife.
with a sharp point, essentially, is a dangerous weapon?
Yeah,
is that right?
absolutely. Or screwdrivers, anything, you know, anything that is spiked.
And even a Stanley knife. Now, that was a knife that's sort of the sharp blade that you use for cutting wood or even sort of thick paper, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And that became so often used by gangs.
Yeah.
They said the verb is to Stanley someone.
Yeah,
It's entered the vernacular.
Yeah, so this is a scalpel.
Right.
Same as
That's kind of what I meant, yeah.
Yeah, so you may see it going through the leather.
Yeah, if you flip your hand that way towards the camera, there we are. That's
you can see it's
very,
actually
very,
cutting.
Effective protection.
But the material inside is something we've developed called Blade Noma.
Right.
It's 50 times stronger than steel, pound for pound.
Yeah.
And this will stop anything. If someone tries to stab your hand with it, it probably wouldn't work. But any slash, it'll protect you.
Have we reached the point of no return with knives? Can we row back on this?
I don't think so. It's the same as in America. If they banned guns, the good guys would give the guns away, but the baddies wouldn't. So, you know, I can't see how you're ever going to stop it. You can't stop people, shops selling carving knives, or ordinary dinner knives.
No, and even a pair of scissors. I mean,
scissors,
anything's a potential weapon. Yeah.
I don't think you can stop it. It's a real problem.
What about education in schools? Would that help?
Major. That is a major. You've got to try and stop the gangs from getting these kids on the street.
Yeah.
Working for them. And I think that the only way to do that is going into school. Youth clubs, I mean, you know, this is a major problem.
Yeah.
Boxing clubs, things that can interest youngsters rather than getting involved in gangs.
Yeah. Wise words. Well, listen, more power to you. It's a growing business. We both wish it wasn't, but
absolutely.
But here we are. Can I thank you for joining us today?
It's been lovely
my
talking
thanks
to you.
to the CEO of Blade Runners, Lee Marks. Fascinating conversation. Well, next up, as he leads the nation in grief and gratitude for our war dead on Remembrance Sunday, I'll be joined by the author of a brand new, updated biography of King Charles. That's right, legendary journalist Robert Hardman is next.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
The former royal correspondent for the Sun newspaper, Charles Ray. Good to see you this morning, Charles, and so good to see Catherine back to work with a hug.
It is. It's fantastic. I mean, there are a few royal jobs that touch at the heartstrings, and this is certainly one of those. And I think it's the first time we've actually seen Catherine back in a royal duty since she herself confirmed that she'd finished chemotherapy.
Done so much, haven't they, the Princess of Wales and the King, to raise awareness for these cancers.
Here we have both the King and Catherine having, explained to the nation and the rest of the world that they were battling or are still battling cancer, just like everyone else.
How sincere is all of this? I mean, it looks like she's a wonderful, kind, caring woman, but I don't know. I've never met her.
Well, she is a wonderful, kind, caring woman. That is without a shadow of a doubt. And William heard about this young lady on a visit to the air ambulance, and they invited her because she's a photographer, so she wanted to take. She has a bucket list and wanted to take pictures of an investiture. I mean, make no mistake. People like Catherine are just absolutely wonderful in what they do and how they do it. I mean, and Catherine is the superstar of the royal family. Of that, there is no doubt.
It's the cockles of my heart, Charles. It really does. It's really good to see you. Thanks very much.
All the
Thanks,
best.
Charles. Thanks. And Liz, who is this 16-year-old amateur photographer who was hugged by Princess of Wales yesterday, has said it was a dream come true.
I bet it was.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Nightmare commute? Kick it up a gear with GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+ and on the GB News app. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with GB News Radio. We are the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
As he led the nation in grief and gratitude for our war dead this morning to mark Remembrance Sunday, King Charles demonstrated once again the dignity and respect that he has brought to the role of monarch. What a tumultuous few years it has been. Losing his mother, acceding to the throne and suffering the double setback of a cancer diagnosis for both himself and his daughter-in-law, Catherine. Well, an updated edition of Robert Hardman's best-selling biography of King Charles, Charles III, New King, New Court, The Inside Story, is published by Macmillan and is out now. And Robert Hardman joins me now. Can I just give you that full title one more time so we can properly shift a few minutes? The Daily Mail's Robert Hardman. Now, that's right, #1 bestseller. Charles III, New King, New Court, The Inside Story. Robert joins us. Robert, congratulations on this updated edition. First of all, I think you took part in today's Remembrance Sunday ceremony and service. Did you see King Charles in action?
I did, Mark. Very good evening. Yes, I didn't take part, I have to say. I was merely a spectator observer, but yeah, it is a timeless event. It's one of the great events. I think it's probably the most sort of sacred event in the royal calendar, really. It's the one occasion where you've got the entire royal family, the entire political class, diplomatic corps, all the forces, and nobody says a word except the Bishop of London, because we're all there to honour the fallen, and the King led the nation. And you know, he's been doing it. I actually worked out today, he laid his first wreath at the Cenotaph in 1972. So no one's been doing it longer than him.
Indeed. And how does Charles feel about the armed forces? How close does he hold them to his heart?
Well, I mean, I think it's a sort of central bond, really. If you're royal, you kind of grow up with people in uniform just sort of wandering around the house. I doubt there's been a sort of day, really, in his entire life when he hasn't seen somebody in some sort of uniform, because they are, as well as being, the monarch is the head of the armed forces, but they're a forces family. I mean, he was in the forces, his sons are in the forces, both parents were in the forces. I mean, the late Queen was the last head of state in the world to serve in uniform in the Second World War. Prince Philip had a very distinguished war. The Queen's father, George VI, was in the First World War at the Battle of Jutland. I mean, the connections are both institutional and personal. So a day like today is incredibly important for everybody in the family.
Indeed. Listen, tell me about the update to your book, because, of course, it was a huge bestseller, Charles III, New King, New Court, The Inside Story. Can you tell me about the new chapters and, you know, the sort of where the story is right now?
Yeah, well, good point, Mark. I mean, the book came out in January. And it really covered the whole sort of transition from the moment that Charles III became king all the way through this extraordinary transition, the coronation, and it really brought us up to the start of 24. And then, of course, since then, we've had this extraordinary tumultuous year, and there was so much to sort of update that I started writing a sort of an extra chapter, and then it turned into 2, then it turned into 3, and really it's sort of become, as you say, I mean, it's an entirely new edition. Because there's a lot of ground to cover. There's the whole story of there we see the king and the queen at Sandringham earlier in the year. There's the whole story of his diagnosis, and not just his, of course, but that of the Princess of Wales. How they handle it in very different ways. It's very interesting that the king decided right from the outset, when he discovered that he was suffering from cancer, he decided, right, I'm going to be very open about this. I am the head of state. People have a right to know. People need to know that their head of state is competent and able. So that even when he was undergoing treatment very early on, while he was driving around London, for example, on his way to hospital, he made a point of travelling in the state Bentley, a very kind of open car, lots of sort of, it's very visible, and going slowly and waving at people. It was this sort of, look, I'm here. There's nothing to worry about. And the constitutional side of his role didn't really change one bit. I mean, obviously, to start with, he had to drop all the public engagements. He couldn't, on doctor's orders, he wasn't allowed to go into crowded rooms or meet strangers. But that didn't stop him carrying on meeting the Prime Minister, meeting ambassadors, going through state papers, taking the calls, doing the sort of, if you like, the behind the scenes, the nuts and bolts of monarchy. But it wasn't really until Easter that he was allowed to shake anybody's hand. And it wasn't really until June on the beaches of Normandy that we really sort of saw him getting back into his stride. But since the summer, I mean, there he was the other day in Australia, then moving on to the Pacific, to his Commonwealth, of which he is head. So, I mean, he's very much sort of grasped it, and that's the way he likes to do it. And it's very different for the princess, because she here is a very energetic, athletic, young mum of 3, who's in a very different position. She doesn't have a constitutional role. She is the most scrutinized woman on the planet. So she's taken a different course when it comes to dealing with this. But I mean, they've both been doing this in tandem. And at the same time, we've had all these extraordinary events in the course of the year. You've got a change of government. You've got the backstories. I mean, in the book, I discovered all sorts of things going on with Prince Andrew, for example. The king is now, as I reveal in the book, he's cut off his brother's allowance because the row over Royal Lodge has got to the point where the king has just sort of run out of patience. There's the whole backstory to people keep saying, why isn't he patching things up with Prince Harry? Well, there are all sorts of reasons for that, which I go into in the book, not least legal, constitutional ones. Prince Harry is currently suing his father's ministers. You can't really have a situation where the king's son is suing the king's ministers in the king's court. The king really can't talk to his son in that situation without what they call legal jeopardy. So we've got all that. But it's been fascinating just to look at the way that here you have a monarch facing this extraordinary challenge, this very challenging year. And yet, his demeanour, his attitude, it's absolutely getting on with it, and we'll see that again next week. He's got a whole lot of engagements next week, and again the other things, looking into the book, and some of the backstories, what's going on behind the scenes. Well, I mean, Queen Camilla has been absolutely central to what's gone on this year. The Princess Royal has been an absolute trooper. The Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh, very quietly just keeping the show on the road. And I thought today at the Cenotaph, there they all were. Admittedly, Queen Camilla couldn't be there. She's got a chest infection. But it felt very much like a sort of reset.
Indeed. And listen, the guy is a remarkable personality. Has Charles the man been changed by this cancer battle, do you think?
Well, it's very interesting. You should ask that, because people did worry, how's this going to sort of affect someone who is, he's a deep thinker. He's only just become monarch. How is this going to sort of, as it were, send him into a sort of depression because he'd only just become king? Yet, I mean, it was on Monday of this week, actually, just 6 days ago, that he overtook Richard III. So he's gradually creeping up the monarchical league table, and he's in a very good place. His faith, it turns out, has been been a sort of key part to this year. But at no point has he been sort of down in the dumps. People would sort of often say in the past that he had a sort of tendency to be slightly Eeyore-ish, when things when he hit sort of difficult weather. He's been very happy as monarch. He is very content now that he doesn't have to ask people. He can just make decisions, and that hasn't changed since the diagnosis. I think he's, as I say in the book, I talk to friends around him. He's very conscious of his own fragility, as they put it. I mean, he's not being remotely complacent, but he's definitely coming at this with the experience of someone who has been a patron of cancer charities for a very long time, who's very up to speed on everything to do both with cancer care and cancer research. So, I mean, he's about as well placed as he could be.
Well, Robert, I really enjoyed the original book. The updated edition is out now. The Daily Mail's Robert Hardman is the author of the #1 bestseller, Charles III, New King, New Court, The Inside Story. Fascinating stuff. Thank you, Robert. We'll catch up soon. OK, next up, folks, in My Take at 10, Trump's stunning election victory is a victory for Britain too, as it spells the end of eco-extremism, open borders and hated political correctness. The future's bright. The future's orange. That's My Take at 10 in just a couple of minutes' time.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. It's been another cloudy day for many of us, but there is some bluer skies and some brighter weather on the horizon as we head into the new working week. We do still have a weather front to contend with through the rest of today, though, continuing to slip its way southwards across the UK through the end of the weekend. And then it's this area of high pressure developing out towards the west that brings us those sunnier skies into next week. So this weather front out in the south of the UK continues to sink its way southwards, still bringing some cloudy skies and some outbreaks of rain to the southern portion of the UK overnight and into the early hours of Monday morning. But further north, a different story. Plenty of clear spells and turning quite chilly under those clear spells too. We could see temperatures dropping into the low single figures, but generally staying that little bit milder under that cloud in the very far south of the UK. And that does mean quite a cloudy and damp start, particularly for southwestern parts of England through Monday morning, with some outbreaks of rain and drizzle across the hills. For the rest of England and Wales, though, generally a dry and bright start to the morning. For Northern Ireland, still staying dry, but perhaps a bit of mist and fog around to start first thing. And for Scotland, also a dry and bright start to the morning, although maybe one or two isolated showers across parts of Shetland and Orkney first thing. So generally staying dry and bright through much of Monday morning, plenty of sunshine on offer. That weather front does eventually sink its way southwards across the southwest of the UK, so plenty of sunshine across the board as we head in towards Monday afternoon. There might be one or two isolated showers just across eastern parts of England, but these generally quite light and quite scattered. And despite temperatures being round about average for the time of year, it will be feeling pleasant in any of that sunshine. The sunshine continues through the rest of Monday and staying dry and clear overnight. So that does mean quite a chilly start for most of us on Tuesday morning, maybe some mist and fog around, but otherwise another dry day across the board. Plenty of sunny spells on offer. Maybe one or two isolated showers still clipping across the very far southeast, but there should be more sunshine on the way as we head through Wednesday and Thursday as well. And temperatures will generally be staying around about average, but definitely feeling pleasant in the sunshine.
We can expect clear skies, leading to a light and warm day ahead. Lovely. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good evening. It is 10 o'clock on television, on radio and online. In the United Kingdom and across the world, this is Mark Dolan Tonight. In my take at 10, Trump's stunning election victory is a victory for Britain too, as it spells the end of eco-extremism, open borders and hated political correctness. The future's bright, the future's orange. After Labour sent 100 party workers to help Kamala Harris and previously attacked the new president-elect, can Nigel Farage undo the damage to the special relationship by the Labour Party? Plus, developing tonight, murderers and rapists from Eastern Europe are being allowed into Britain despite having criminal records. I'll be unearthing this shocking scandal with former Home Office Minister Anne Widdecombe. And tomorrow's newspaper front pages as soon as they land, and tonight's top pundits. For ringside action, we have political commentator Annunziata Rees-Mogg, ex-Tory MP Sir Michael Fabricant, and TV news legend Michael Crick. So, lots to get through. A busy hour to come, folks. Why Trump is good news for Britain, straight after the news headlines and Sophia Wensler.
Mark, thank you. It's just gone 10 o'clock. These are your headlines from the GB newsroom. To the US, where it's understood Donald Trump has held a phone conversation with Russian President Vladimir Putin to discuss the war in Ukraine. US media is reporting that Trump warned Putin not to escalate the conflict. It comes as Joe Biden is reportedly set to make a personal plea to Donald Trump about the importance of funding Ukraine. It's understood the outgoing president will urge Trump not to walk away from Ukraine when the pair meet in the Oval Office on Wednesday. Elsewhere, Israel's Prime Minister says he and Donald Trump see eye to eye on Iran. Benjamin Netanyahu said he has spoken to the US president-elect 3 times since the election. The nation has fallen silent as the King led a 2-minute silence to mark Remembrance Sunday and honour fallen soldiers at 11 o'clock this morning. Big Ben chimed 11 times and the last post was played before King Charles, dressed in his Royal Navy uniform of the Admiral of the Fleet, laid a wreath at the cenotaph. He was joined by members of the royal family, including the Prince and Princess of Wales. The Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, and the leader of the opposition, Kemi Badenoch, both laid wreaths. They were also joined by former Prime Ministers. Today is also the first time since the start of the year that the Princess of Wales, who is recovering from cancer, is carrying out 2 consecutive days of public official engagements. 10,000 veterans have marched past the cenotaph as part of the Royal British Legion's parade. A manhunt is underway in London after a shooting left 1 person dead and 2 injured. Officers were called to Wells Park Road in Sydenham this morning, where they found a man with gunshot injuries who sadly died at the scene. A woman and a 3rd person were taken to hospital with what are also thought to be gunshot wounds. No arrests have been made so far over what the Metropolitan Police are calling a senseless act of violence. And 4 men have been arrested after 400 kilograms of cocaine was found on board a fishing boat off the Kent coast. The National Crime Agency said Border Force intercepted the vessel this morning. 3 men on board the boat were arrested on suspicion of importing Class A drugs, while a fourth was arrested at an address in East London. Minister for Migration and Citizenship, Seema Malhotra, said this government is focused on tackling all forms of organised criminality. Our Border Security Command, backed by £150 million, is a key part of the plan to protect borders. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now it's back to Mark.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Can Nigel Farage rescue the special relationship? I'll be asking Anne Widdecombe straight after my take at 10. This week has been very revealing. Those furious about the US election result and talking about a threat to democracy and fascism may as well be looking in the mirror. Just as in America, we too have a media, political and corporate elite signed up to a raft of deranged woke views shared by a fraction of the population, and an elite who look down on and detest ordinary people and their grubby views, which are unwelcome in polite society. Unfortunately for them, here, as in the US, there are more of us than them. Rich celebrities in America campaigned for Kamala as they did for Starmer here in the UK, signalling that they're better people than the rest of us. They're the good people. But of course, they're also insulated from the grim real-world consequences of policies like effective open borders and eco-zealotry that they propound. In America, Taylor Swift and George Clooney are not impacted by high crime in urban areas, the cost of living, or cities like New York overflowing with migrants, which is why New York almost turned red on Tuesday. And here in the UK, the likes of Carol Vorderman don't struggle to get a GP appointment, a school place for their child, or fear rising energy bills thanks to our efforts to decarbonise the economy by next Tuesday. For Trump's many flaws, I can't help but watch in envy as the United States embarks on a political, social and economic revolution that we so badly need here, rather than what we've actually got, which is more debt, more tax, a war on wealth creators, a war on workers and a war on farmers, and so-called investment in bloated, failing public services. Having just opted for Sir Keir Starmer as PM, Britain feels like a contestant on Bullseye, looking over to America at what we could have won. Donald Trump, a glistening speedboat compared to the booby prize that is this Labour government. Thanks, Jim. We've had a good day, but we'll take 5 years of socialism, please. Yes, following Trump's victory, Britain looks to have made a very bad choice indeed, like a nervous groom at the altar, realising that he should have married her sister instead. Either way, the Trump victory is ultimately a victory for Britain too. We know that if America sneezes, we get a cold, and its cultural influence is as strong as its economic one. Which means, for example, that woke is dead. Stifling political correctness in which people get cancelled and castigated for thinking things that 10 years ago were perfectly sensible is no more. The populist fight back, evidenced on Tuesday in America, will embolden people here who have had enough of not being able to crack an inappropriate joke, not being able to love their country, celebrate their masculinity or femininity, enjoy a movie without a trigger warning, or sit down to a Roald Dahl or Agatha Christie book that hasn't been obliterated by sensitivity readers. We are done with the woke crap. Tuesday's Trump victory, even if you don't like the guy, and many don't, including my mother, is ultimately like a cultural dam bursting. But Trump's revolution will impact policy here as well. It's the end of money printing, endless unwinnable wars, and the gaslighting of Israel, the only democracy in the Middle East. It's the end of turning a blind eye to crime and tolerating shoplifting and antisocial behaviour. And I'm all for cleaning up the planet and smartly decarbonising. But the ideological madness of net zero, eco-communism in all but name, is now toast. Bad news for bacon sandwich superfan Ed Miliband and his doomed efforts to shut down oil and gas production in the North Sea and bet the house on flaky renewables. Trump's victory means the end of pronouns, of men in women's prisons and changing rooms and female sport, and confused children being butchered and poisoned by corrupt, ideologically captured medics. Eco-lunacy, woke madness and failed socialist policies are about to go into steep decline. The Donald is the chosen one, and his second coming will help Britain too. He may not walk on water, he's too heavy, but Trump's resurrection will save us all. Can he turn water into wine? Let's ask my pundits this evening. I'm delighted to have political commentator Annunziata Rees-Mogg, former Conservative MP Sir Michael Fabricant, and TV news legend Michael Crick. Annunziata, good to see you. Is Trump's victory good news for Britain?
Undoubtedly. It's good news for the West. It's good news for freedom of speech. It's good news for libertarian policies across the board. And I think we have been sleepwalking into nanny knows best. The state should be able to take over and control more and more of our lives. And Trump is representing a real kickback against that, where individual responsibility returns. And I think it really demonstrates how dangerous it is, as the referendum in 2016 did, to completely ignore those who are not part of the cultural elite, the urban elite. And when you look to the maps of the US, county by county, the results are really very staggering. The 90-odd% of the country is red for Trump, because the communities feel left behind and they're being listened to. And they've got a strong advocate in Trump. Whether you like him, whether you agree with him or not, you can't deny that he is a strong voice for people who felt ignored.
And will Trump's victory influence life for us in the UK, Michael?
Yes, it will, because he doesn't believe in the orthodoxy. Just to go abroad, for example, don't forget it was Trump that organised the peace arrangements with the Arab countries and Israel. And it was fear of Trump and that there would be an agreement between Saudi Arabia and Israel that started the whole October 8th Hamas attack encouraged by Iran. And I think it's fascinating, isn't it, that Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, is saying quite rightly, and this is being backed up by the Trump team, that they see eye to eye on Iran. And if we say, well, what has that got to do with Britain? How many British soldiers have been killed or maimed with IEDs and other explosive devices supplied to terrorist organisations by Iran? And so I think we'll find now that there is going to be a fresh approach to international politics and a fresh approach that will benefit the United Kingdom, particularly if we can do that trade deal now, which was beginning to work out with Boris and Trump, but then, of course, that didn't go any further.
Do you think Sir Keir Starmer will seize the opportunity to get a trade deal across the line?
I'm not convinced he'll want to do it. He will want to do it.
Well, he has to choose, doesn't he? Either he goes into the bosom of the EU or he goes west to the United States. Well, you can't have both, can you? You can't be in the EU's regulatory orbit and do a deal with America.
Well, I would hope, maybe it's wishful thinking, but I would hope that Starmer recognises we have left the EU and we don't want to start entertaining any idea now that we're going to get back into that orbit. But you're all right. It's either one or the other, and I know where our future lies. It lies with English-speaking countries, with English law, because the Americans have the English jurisprudence system.
With growing markets.
With growing markets, and don't forget Europe is actually declining, not only compared to the United States, but compared to other developing countries in the Far East.
Michael, is a Trump-style revolution coming to our shores in 4 years' time?
No. Thank goodness. Let's remember, the Trump-style revolution involves the first criminal to be president of the United States, a man who tried to overthrow
bad bookkeeping.
Sorry?
But he's a felon because of bad bookkeeping.
And would he have been prosecuted if it hadn't been the fact that it was Trump?
It wasn't a clerical error. It was much worse than that. He had several other prosecutions in the pipeline. This is a man who tried
paid off his mistress.
Who still denies that he lost the election in 2020. This man is bad for democracy throughout the West. He's undermined
Tell that
democracy.
to 73 million Americans.
No, but he has a contempt for democracy. You know, he showed that in 2020, and he showed that at points in this campaign. He dislikes international institutions, cooperative institutions, like the Paris deal, NATO, the UN, the European...
No, that's untrue. First of all, with NATO, he backs NATO. All he's saying...
Well, we're not clear that he does back NATO. He's threatened to leave NATO.
No, he has said that he would stay in NATO and support NATO, providing other countries pay their fair whack. And you know what?
He has said that
I
at times.
agree
This is
for
the problem with Trump, that he says one thing one day and one thing another day, but he has talked about leaving NATO, and the other members of NATO, quite rightly, in my view, and we should have been doing this a lot earlier, have been playing more. But NATO
Thanks to Trump.
Because no, but this started actually before Trump. It started 2014.
But he held their feet to the fire, didn't he?
That's right. Well, there was an element there, and you know, it's one of the few things on which I agree with Trump, that the other members of NATO do have to put more in. I mean, you know,
but Michael, let's go through my list.
And look at what about Ukraine? All right, go through your list.
Well, let me go through it.
Open borders. You say it's an end to open borders. Yeah, pull the other one. Well, he said that in 2016.
The numbers doubled.
What happened to the wall? What happened to the wall? It ends up in the middle of nowhere.
Let me tell you that the numbers doubled when Joe Biden came into the White House, and 11 million people have entered America illegally in the last 4 years.
But you said in your monologue there's an end to open borders. We cannot...
I said an effective open border, which is what it is.
I'm not saying it's a good thing that all this immigration is taking...
Illegal immigration, yeah.
But that it's very, very difficult to stop. And all of these issues are incredibly complicated. Ukraine, the relationship with Russia, you know, trade, all of these things are incredibly complicated. And I suspect the story of the second Trump presidency will not be as great as you think it's going to be, and probably won't as bad as I fear it's going to be.
I think there wouldn't have been a Ukraine if it hadn't been for the fact that Biden was weak.
Let me tell you that feelings...
Because what about... I mean, you know...
Look at that, it's all kicked off. Feelings are running high. What we're going to do...
What about Crimea? That was long before Biden.
This, as you can see, is box office telly. So what we're going to do, and Annunziata has got a lot to say, so what we're going to do, we're going to come back at 10:30 for the papers and continue this conversation. Is Trump good for Britain? But I've got good news for you, because 2 weeks left now to grab a chance to win Christmas on Us in the Great British Giveaway. That's £25,000 in tax-free cash, plus a whole host of Christmas goodies to ensure you have a fantastically festive time. And the best news is we'll get it to you in time for the big day. So time's running out to get your entry in. Here are all the details. And no, Michael Fabricant, you cannot enter that competition. Coming up next with Anne Widdecombe, by sending 100 party workers to help Kamala Harris and previously attacking the new president-elect, can Nigel Farage undo the damage done to the special relationship by Labour? And developing tonight, murderers and rapists from Eastern Europe are being allowed into Britain despite having criminal records. I'll be unearthing this shocking scandal with Anne Widdecombe next.
I'm Nana Acquia. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Restaurant St. Bart's executive head chef Johnny Crowe creates ramen with a British twist, using only the finest UK-sourced produce. As the only restaurant in London to hold both a Michelin star and a green Michelin star, St. Bart's emphasises sustainability and the diversity of British ingredients. Johnny joins me now. Johnny, congratulations on having these 2 Michelins. How do you get a Michelin green star?
Probably a better question for the inspectors, but I mean, I think it's down to a lot of hard work.
What hoops do you have to go through?
So I think it's working every day on it. Sustainability isn't something that you just achieve and then therefore you have it and you can sort of relax. It's about every day trying to be better, trying to make a restaurant and a business that is overly sustainable.
So what things do you do to make it sustainable?
So one of the main things that we've really tried to do is focusing on British produce, and actually, you know, part of that is about sustainability and food miles. A massive part of it for us was also about sort of helping the British economy and the farming economy and our fisheries as well. But yeah, no, the idea...
I have a lot of farms near St Bart's, which is in the heart of the City of London.
Well, funnily enough, there's an amazing collective called Shrub Provisions, who we use a hell of a lot, who work with farmers all around East Sussex. So it makes a difference from flying it in from Kenya or somewhere else like that. But no, like a big part of it was, one, using British produce to cut down on food miles, but also helping sustain our farming industry.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Martin Daubney. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Tomorrow's papers at 10:30. I'll get to your emails then as well. But first up, after Labour sent 100 party workers to help Kamala Harris and previously attacked the new president-elect, can Nigel Farage undo the damage done to the special relationship by the Labour Party? Well, let's get the views of former government minister and now Reform UK spokesperson Anne Widdecombe. Anne, how damaging do you think Labour's previous remarks about President Donald Trump have been?
Well, I think they probably will be extremely damaging, because it hasn't just been, say, David Lammy, although he's the one most quoted because his were the most extreme comments, but it's been various members of the Labour government, and now, 5 minutes ago, they had people out there helping Kamala Harris, quite overtly. So I don't suppose the relationship is going to get off on a particularly good start. On the other hand, Donald Trump is a grown-up. The Labour Party will eventually grow up. And so they may just get on with it in exactly the same way that I think we all need to remember that Vance, the running mate, the current Vice President Vance, actually made some very, very contrary remarks about, what do you call him, America's Hitler, to be blunt, about Donald Trump. Trump's obviously forgiven him. So I don't think it's a permanent state of affairs, but I think it will be very frosty to start with.
Indeed. Now, Sir Keir Starmer could certainly do with Nigel Farage's help rebuilding the special relationship. But what's in it for Mr Farage, given that he and Starmer are political opponents?
Well, I don't think there'd be very much in it for Nigel, but Nigel's got a sense of duty. He's very friendly with Trump. Trump respects him. There's not much evidence that he respects anybody in the Labour government. He respects Nigel Farage. And therefore, I think Nigel could do some very, very useful work. But behind the scenes, I know people speculate he should be the ambassador. No. Farage is the leader of Reform. He's the MP for Clapton. He's got a big, big job to do getting Reform into government in this country. So I don't want to see him doing something formally, but I do think he could be extremely useful behind the scenes.
And how close is Nigel to the president-elect?
Well, I think he's fairly close. Obviously, I can't say 100%, but they've always had a good working relationship. Nigel's gone out to help. Trump has mentioned him very favourably. And so, yes, I think you could describe the relationship as fairly close.
And Donald Trump is no Ronald Reagan, is he? And there are plenty of Conservatives who have their concerns. What's your view of the new president-elect?
Well, my view is that given the millions of tens of millions of Americans that voted for him, he is undeniably and undoubtedly the president-elect of the United States. And that is what we've got to respect, and that is what we've got to deal with. And whatever reservations people may have had, it is now time to lay them aside and to get on with it in the interests of the West, in the interests of defense, security, and good trade relations. We just have to get on with it now.
And that sounds like damning with faint praise. We have to get on with it. We have to accept he's won. Are you not a fan?
I wanted Trump to win. There was no doubt about that. I thought Kamala Harris was a policy-free zone. I thought she was a disaster area. I thought she was extremely patronising to women. Didn't seem to realise that we vote on things like the economy and migration, not just on women's issues. So I very, very, very much wanted Trump to win. There's no doubt about that. We've all got reservations because
what are yours, Anne?
Well, no, I don't have to go into detail. Everybody knows that after his defeat last time, he didn't exactly calm the situation down. Now, I don't say he stoked it up. I don't say he generated it. I don't say he began it. But he certainly didn't do anything about calming it down. That would give me a reservation. But I think, as I've said, he is the president of the United States, and it would be a very foolish Britain that didn't try to get on with the president of the United States.
And I agree with you, Anne, and I have my reservations about Trump too, but I think that his victory on Tuesday is good news for America, good news for Britain, and good news for the free world. Just briefly, Anne, Europe is shifting to the right. America has just elected Donald Trump by a landslide. Meanwhile, Britain has elected a very left-wing Labour government. Why do you think that is? Why have we bucked the trend?
Well, because keeping to the trend would have meant electing the Conservatives, and they were completely unelectable. They were in such chaos, in such mess, so hopelessly divided, and it was a farce, multiple prime ministers within a few years, that it isn't very surprising that the electorate said enough. And at that stage, I think it's different now, because Reform have actually got MPs. People have seen that we can win. But at that stage, I think people had some doubts as to whether we could prevail, so they voted for the only other party that was around, was the Labour Party. But I don't think they did so with any enthusiasm.
And hundreds of foreign criminals convicted of murder, rape and child sexual abuse have been allowed into Britain from abroad after exploiting weaknesses in the UK visa system. They only have to self-declare that they've not committed any serious crime to secure a visa to enter Britain, and they're only exposed if they get into trouble with police once in the UK. What a shambles.
Well, it's more than a shambles. It is a scandal. And anybody who has been a victim of any of these people is fully entitled to blame the government. Let's be very clear about this. We're not talking about people coming in illegally. We're talking about people coming in through the visa system. And despite the fact that all the checks can be made, because they are, of course, when it's too late and they've done something in this country, despite the fact that all the checks can be made, that there is full international cooperation on this sort of thing, despite all of that, the government doesn't do it. Now, why not?
Deeply concerning. And we're going to hell in a handcart. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you in a week's time. My thanks to former Government Minister and Reform UK spokesperson Anne Widdecombe. Next up, the papers with full pundit reactions. Some pretty spicy headlines. Don't go anywhere.
Good evening. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. It's been another cloudy day for many of us, but there is some bluer skies and some brighter weather on the horizon as we head into the new working week. We do still have a weather front to contend with through the rest of today, though, continuing to slip its way southwards across the UK through the end of the weekend. And then it's this area of high pressure developing out towards the west that brings us those sunnier skies into next week. So this weather front out in the south of the UK continues to sink its way southwards, still bringing some cloudy skies and some outbreaks of rain to the southern portion portion of the UK overnight and into the early hours of Monday morning. But further north, a different story. Plenty of clear spells and turning quite chilly under those clear spells too. We could see temperatures dropping into the low single figures. But generally staying that little bit milder under that cloud in the very far south of the UK. And that does mean quite a cloudy and damp start, particularly for southwestern parts of England through Monday morning, with some outbreaks of rain and drizzle across the hills. For the rest of England and Wales, though, generally a dry and bright start to the morning. For Northern Ireland, still staying dry, but perhaps a bit of mist and fog around to start first thing. And for Scotland, also a dry and bright start to the morning, although maybe one or two isolated showers across parts of Shetland and Orkney first thing. So generally staying dry and bright through much of Monday morning, plenty of sunshine on offer. That weather front does eventually sink its way southwards across the southwest of the UK, so plenty of sunshine across the board as we head in towards Monday afternoon. There might be one or two isolated showers just across eastern parts of England, but these generally quite light and quite scattered. And despite temperatures being round about average for the time of year, it will be feeling pleasant in any of that sunshine. The sunshine continues through the rest of Monday and staying dry and clear overnight. So that does mean quite a chilly start for most of us on Tuesday morning, maybe some mist and fog around, but otherwise another dry day across the board. Plenty of sunny spells on offer. Maybe one or two isolated showers still clipping across the very far southeast, but there should be more sunshine on the way as we head through Wednesday and Thursday as well. And temperatures will generally be staying around about average, but definitely feeling pleasant in the sunshine.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Jubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Just gone 10:30, time for tomorrow's front pages. Metro, Kate's remembrance returns, solemn duty. The I newspaper, smash the gangs won't work. Verdict from Home Office officials on Labour small boats plan. So Keir Starmer plans to tackle criminal gangs. But this will have little impact on channel crossings and reducing illegal immigration to the UK, civil servants have warned. Insiders tell the Eye nobody understands how the new Border Security Command will work and claim department officials are underwhelmed by the strategy outlined last week. OK, what about the Daily Telegraph now? Starmer plots to thwart Trump on Ukraine. So Keir Starmer and Emmanuel Macron are expected to plot a last-ditch attempt to thwart Donald Trump's efforts to scale back US support for Ukraine. The British and French leaders will tomorrow discuss whether Joe Biden, the US president, can be persuaded to give Ukraine permission to fire Storm Shadow missiles deep into Russia, according to government insiders. Pubs and restaurants told to suck it up over national insurance increases. And GP appointments hit by Chancellor tax raid. Let's get full reaction now from political commentator Annunziata Rees-Mogg, ex-Tory MP Sir Michael Fabricant and TV news legend Michael Crick. Annunziata, I newspaper front page, smash the gangs won't work, say Home Office officials. There's a surprise.
They should have been watching GB News over the entire election campaign. I think you told them very clearly that this wasn't going to work, that if you smash one gang, another gang pops up, and what you've got to do is kill the demand. And the report, according to the Eye, clearly states that the demand has not been affected at all. That's what Rwanda was about. It was about having a deterrent, making the UK less attractive to get to. And Keir Starmer got rid of all deterrents. So, of course, people are still going to want to come. And if people want to come and are willing to pay for it, gangs will pop up. left, right and centre to facilitate them, no matter how dangerous it is. It's blood money.
I mean,
Michael.
this week we saw Starmer doing a speech in Glasgow at the Interpol conference. I think it was this week or the week before. And talking about if we all work together in Interpol, then we can smash the gangs. And you think, oh, yeah. And I looked down the list of members of Interpol. It includes Syria, and it includes Afghanistan and Russia and Belarus.
Albania, perhaps?
And are these countries really going to want to do a deal with us? Are the Taliban really going to want to do a deal with us to stop people coming from Afghanistan or the Syrians or whatever? It's ludicrous to think it's going to make a huge amount of difference. Personally, I think one of the things that might make a difference is identity cards, which I personally can't see any problem with identity cards. I know it was a big dispute 20 years ago.
Would a failure to stop the boats be a problem politically for Keir Starmer in 4 years' time?
Definitely, yeah.
Because it would be a problem for any Conservative Prime Minister.
Which
Is
Michael?
it a problem?
Me or...
Well, no, I want to ask you first, Michael Crick, and I'll come to you, Michael, number two, after that. But politically, would this be a problem for Starmer if he fails to stop the boats?
Of course it will. I mean, the British public I do worry about this, and I think there are too many people on the left.
But if they were worried, why did they vote for Labour, who clearly had a very flaky policy on this?
Well, I think they voted for Labour for other reasons, but
Right.
I think most people are sceptical that any government can make a huge amount of difference here. I mean, would the Rwanda thing have made any difference? Of course it wouldn't. And the number of people who would have gone to Rwanda under the scheme would have been tiny.
No,
Michael, you're shaking your head.
Absolutely. The Irish Taoiseach, the Irish Prime Minister, was saying that even though no one had actually, apart from one volunteer, been sent out to Rwanda, there were English migrants, now illegal immigrants, moving to Dublin and other areas, and there were riots in Dublin because they feared that Rwanda would go into action and that they would be sent off to Rwanda, and boat crossings came down considerably, and those that did come across drifted across to Ireland. The deterrent was working before anybody was sent there.
But was Rwanda an expensive white elephant? Because I agree with you, there has to be a deterrent, but was Rwanda the right one?
I wouldn't have picked Rwanda as my top policy, but once it was in place and the costs had been borne, it should have been carried through, and it made us look very weak by getting rid of it. And there was definitely a deterrent effect to it of some degree. What we really need to do is leave the ECHR to make sure we can actually deport people, stop putting up people in nice hotels so that they've got somewhere great to stay, and just ship them straight back out. If you come here illegally, you are a criminal, and you should have any right to stay immediately revoked.
And this is what Trump's going to do.
Are you concerned that the new Tory leader, Kemi Badenoch, will not adopt any of those policies?
I'm very encouraged that Robert Jenrick has been tasked with, as I understand it, looking into whether we need to leave both the ECHR and the Human Rights
He's a lawyer
Commission.
and he's Shadow Justice Secretary.
Absolutely.
But do you think that
from everything I've read, we are going to need to leave? But if you look over to our European neighbours, some of those are undertaking deportations and other measures without leaving the ECHR.
Including
so
France.
I think it does need to be investigated to find out what we can do to make sure our country is safe, which is surely our priority.
How important is it that Kemi Badenoch is robust on this and embraces potentially the idea of exiting the ECHR, which so far she won't be led on, Michael? Does that concern you?
It's hugely important. I think it's make or break for the Conservative Party.
Will she do it?
I think she will.
Will Michael Gove let her do it?
I think Michael Gove. Yeah. He's running the Spectator. Well, look, I think she realises that if she doesn't do it, you know what? Reform, once again, will take a huge chunk of votes from the right, which will just let Labour continue in their ghastly way.
Michael, you've just done a documentary about the future of reform.
Well, I appeared in it.
Oh, you appeared in it. You featured in it. I'm sure you were the best thing on it. But do you think that the Tories face an existential threat from reform, and could the pinch point be illegal immigration?
I do think I don't think they face an existential threat. I mean, the Tory party is an incredibly robust institution, but clearly it's a big problem for them. And I suspect Reform will win a few by-elections in this Parliament. And I think Labour faces a threat from them too. And I think if Labour hasn't made an impact on the boats traffic by the time of the next election, they will lose a lot of votes over that.
Well, they won't make an impact, will they? I mean, as a Home Office civil servants, I think was it dishonest of Sir Keir Starmer to say that his policy was to smash the gangs, knowing it wouldn't work?
Well, who's to say whether he knew it wouldn't work? But it was foolish of him.
Do you think that Keir Starmer knew that it wouldn't work?
I think anyone who looked at it and used any analytical skills at all knew it couldn't work.
But it's only the parallel of what Sunak did. I mean, he said, we're going to stop the boats. And that didn't happen, did it?
Yeah.
And I'm not resolving
plan how he could do it.
Michael, lots of people have said that actually the Prime Minister and even Boris Johnson back in the day, Priti Patel, none of them really believed that Rwanda would work, but it was a good fig leaf politically.
No, I don't believe that, actually. I think they actually believed it would be a deterrent. I said to Rishi Sunak, to say you're going to stop the boats is naive as hell, because you're never going to stop them completely. But you could reduce them by 80 or 90% if they think there's a good chance they're going to be sent off to Rwanda and be processed there.
If it's only a few hundred people going to Rwanda and tens of thousands are coming, anybody who's thinking of coming is going to take the risk, aren't they?
They don't.
It's a 1% chance I'll be off to Rwanda.
That's why they drifted across the island.
But why should anybody think, if there's only a 1% chance of them going to Rwanda?
They don't think analytically like this.
Of course they do. A lot of these people are incredibly clever coming here.
They wind up in Rwanda. It's the same reason, mercifully, why people don't drink drive. Well, A, because it's wrong. They might get caught.
It's one of the risks they take, in the same way that the risk they take is that they will drown in the English Channel, but they make the calculation that won't happen.
Why were they drifting over, even though only one person was actually sent to Rwanda, and as I said earlier, they volunteered? Why were they leaving England and moving across the island? Well, because it was a real threat. And at the time,
because once they're here, then it's
reduced.
Well, once they're here, I suppose just as a safety thing that they move across to Ireland. But hang on, that doesn't mean it would have deterred them from coming in the first place.
But it did. It did. The number of crossings actually was reduced.
Well, the number of crossings went down for other reasons as well, to do with the weather. Well, to do with the weather.
No,
and things like that. And now
the Michaels love arguing.
Yes, they do. I mean, this is the point. The Taoiseach complained about the Rwanda plan. He literally name-checked it, which I thought was a PR coup for the late, great Rishi Sunak.
It was, but that's because there was a reason behind it, and people didn't want to be deported to Rwanda when it looked likely to come in. As soon as that threat went, more people were encouraged. But we need to go much further than just that. We need to make sure there aren't benefits hotels and that people are literally turned around.
What about Trump-style deportations, which Nigel Farage has distanced himself from that idea, but Trump's going to do it in America. If it's successful, should we do it here?
I think we should be deporting anyone who comes here illegally. They are a criminal.
Even people who have been
processing, but we should have efficient systems that actually do that fairly and justly. The only justice is swift justice, and at the moment, those people are getting no justice at all. They are living in limbo, and it's worse for the people already here.
Michael Crick, deportations?
Well,
I mean, even Farage won't go there, but Trump has.
In some cases, yeah. If they've come from countries where there is no obvious asylum reason, but some of these countries there are very good asylum reasons, like Afghanistan. There are thousands of people, tens of thousands of people, and Iran, who their lives are in danger if they stay in that country because they're out of step with the regime, and we should be willing to grant them asylum.
Yes, but most of those people are women, and they don't come across.
I agree. That is a problem, and we should be doing more to enable those women to come here instead.
We are talking about illegal immigration. There are legal pathways for people who are really being threatened.
Well, it's not really illegal if you are a genuine asylum seeker.
Then why not me?
As soon as you get on a boat in France, it is illegal. You are a criminal by trying to get to this country via the channel.
And they throw away their identity documents. They don't want to keep the fact that they're Iranians, because you know what? They're not Iranians.
OK, Michael, last word on this before the break.
Well, I think that it is a problem that, for all parties, it's very, very difficult to resolve it. It's a big problem for Labour, and I don't think the policies of either the Rwanda or smashing Gans are going to work. ID cards. OK, well, there you go. Look, it's always good to have a diversity of views. We'll come back to that, plus more front pages. And after the break, we expose the TV star who tonight is backtracking and, quite frankly, grovelling after insensitively asking why Princess Kate has suddenly aged so much. It's caused outrage. People are angry. We'll discuss that next.
Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
This is reported in the Telegraph today, and it's about being white or being coloured or being anti-racist. Is Monopoly a racist game?
This is an incredible story, actually, I have to say. I'm reading this from the Mail. It's in Telegraph as well, but from the Mail. Children should be playing Monopoly to learn about racial privilege, councils claim. While white players should be given more money, spend less time in jail, and also be given a head start on buying property to convey inequality and white supremacy. And this all, I'm not making this up, and this all comes from a document called How to Raise Anti-Racist Children, which was drawn up for the Barbie manufacturer Mattel in 2020, and it's been endorsed, or at least circulated, by Leicestershire County Council, Southampton City Council, Lambeth London Borough and City of London Corporation, who apparently think this is a sensible way to go forward. I mean, for goodness sake, Monopoly is just a bit of fun, isn't it? Let's just enjoy it.
It's a wonderful example of how anti-racist thinking becomes racist. What they're saying is that white children should be given privileges on the Monopoly board.
Because they've got it in real life.
So that they learn that they already have privilege. Do we really think children are going to think that? Or do we really think children are going to think, oh, great, I have an white children are going to think, great, I have an advantage?
They're going to think, oh, no, I've landed on Mayfair and there's 4 houses there.
It's wonderfully stupid.
We've also heard it with nursery rhymes as well, though, haven't we? And mums and dads being told not to sing Bar Bar Black Sheep.
That's in the story as well, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
their
Because it's
children.
steeped in white culture. And what a lot of nonsense that is as well.
What are you meant to sing instead?
Well, Bar, I don't know, White Sheep, perhaps, I don't know.
Or rainbow sheep or something.
Wah, wah, white sheep. You can say wah, wah, white sheep as they play Monopoly with their privileges.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about?
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe.
Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. OK, have we got some front pages loaded up? Let's do it. Let's go to The Independent. And Starmer urged to bolster UK-EU ties after Trump win. And when will Labour give forces the funds they need? Ask the Daily Mail. Fury of former top brass as Rachel Reeves' deputy says vital boost may not even come within 5 years. The Times, stay away from sports events in Britain. Israel warns its citizens. PM heads for Paris talk. PM heads for Paris to talk Trump and tariffs. And how can we help when the robots get depressed? Daily Star. Star Lewis hints orange man baby like cruel king. Trump knew Henry VIII. Damian Lewis, who plays Henry VIII, hints that orange man baby Donald Trump will change laws on a whim, just like the head-chopping tyrant. OK, those are some more front pages. Let's get further reaction from Annunziata, Michael and Michael. And listen, let's have a look at that story in The Independent, Michael Fabricant. Sir Michael, I should say. No. Starmer urged to bolster UK-EU ties after Trump win. He can have a trade deal with America or he can have closer ties with Europe. This is a real conflict, isn't it, for the Prime Minister? There'll be pressure on his party to head in the direction of the EU.
And there'll be pressure within his party as well. There are a lot of people who are on the backbenches in the Labour Party who would love us to go back into the EU with all the inflexibility that that would bring, including, as you said, Mark, the inability to do any negotiation with any other country, particularly the United States, for trade deals which would be beneficial. Remember that Europe tried to do a deal with the United States. The United States didn't want to know. Countries like Bulgaria, Romania, and even Hungary, as I said earlier, their income per capita is far lower.
Indeed. And then, of course, there's car production in Germany as well, which is a big threat to US car
absolutely,
production.
and in Spain and
Michael,
Italy.
I think we can all agree it would be fantastic to have a UK-US trade deal. I think it would be a triumph for Sir Keir Starmer. If he makes it happen, I'll do a monologue congratulating him.
It might not be a triumph for British farmers or the farming industry.
Depends on the deal, doesn't it?
Well, I suspect we would have to agree to lower standards on agricultural products than the European Union would allow. And that we would have to have, chlorinated chicken and all of that.
Well, we have chlorinated salad, nobody's
and this would be bad news for our farmers, about which we've expressed concern.
Quite like less red tape themselves, and perhaps we could make the whole system work more fairly for consumers and producers so that we can afford decent food. Unfortunately, we've stuck with the EU and over-regulated ourselves so that everything becomes less and less affordable.
Briefly, Michael, on the politics of this,
yes.
It will be a problem for Labour to try and negotiate with Donald Trump because most of that party organisation detest him. So Starmer's sort of pulled and pushed, isn't he, in different directions on this?
Everybody thought, the idea of Tony Blair negotiating with George Bush Jr. Way back in 2000, given the close relationship he'd have with Clinton. In the end, they got on, well, if anything, too well, because it all led to the Iraq War and everything.
Yeah.
I don't think Trump will care about what David Lammy said. After all, his own vice president described him as a fascist, didn't he?
That's exactly right. He used the word Hitler.
Hitler, that's right, not a fact. Hitler. Well, that's and it's well known that party activists go over and campaign. So.
All right. Well, there you go. That one's going to run and run. But good luck, Prime Minister. Try and get that deal across the line. I will do a monologue dedicated to you because it really will reboot your premiership. Now, how about this from top TV broadcaster Narinder Kaur, who caused outrage on the internet today when she tweeted the following: a photograph of Princess Catherine at the Remembrance Sunday memorial, and she said, "Genuine question: why has Kate aged so much? Isn't she only 42? Isn't she a smoker? Only explanation." So, Michael, what an insensitive tweet.
Yeah, I mean, I can't believe that this person seemed to be oblivious of the fact that she's been taking... well, I don't know if she is under chemotherapy, but she's certainly receiving medical treatment.
She's finished her chemo, I think, but she's been through it.
But it ages you. And actually, I think she looks, if it's not disloyal or improper, I think the Princess of Wales looks gorgeous.
She does.
She's attractive. And of course she was looking solemn. It was Remembrance Sunday, for heaven's sake.
Annunziata, where do you start with this? I mean, this is sexism from another woman, really, isn't it?
Without doubt. I don't think she would have said the same about a 42-year-old man. I think you take the likes of Daniel Craig when he was 42 and he's expected to be rugged, yet somehow for a woman that's a bad thing. I think she looks absolutely beautiful. She is a style icon of our age, and she has had one of the worst years, in her husband's words, the worst year of their lives. Unsurprisingly, it's taken its toll, but she still looks amazing.
Well, let me tell you that I'm a big fan of Narinda's. I think she's made a big mistake, and to be fair to Narinda, she has apologised. She tweeted the following: "I put out a tweet earlier, a genuine ask about why Kate Middleton has aged so much. It was genuinely an ask. I thought she was perhaps a smoker. It was, on reflection, a stupid, insensitive tweet. More so because someone who lost her brother to cancer should have known better. I sincerely apologise for asking about ageing." Fair play to Narinda for that apology. OK, folks, Headliners is next, and Josh is in the hot seat.
We have a lot of Trump. We have the Taliban putting the mentalists into environmentalists. We have Lewis Schaefer and Jonathan Cogan, which is going to be an absolute nightmare, but that means it's going to be great TV. Join us in a sec.
Always great TV. Thank you, Josh. Look forward to that. Thank you to the two Michaels and Annunziata for a very fascinating evening of debate. Most importantly, thank you to you for your company, listening on the radio, watching on TV. It's always a thrill doing this show. I will return on Friday evening for Friday Night Live at 8 o'clock. So keep it GB News and keep it headliners. Of course, a big week to come. Lots of great output. Don't miss a second of it. I'll see you Friday.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. It's been another cloudy day for many of us, but there is some bluer skies and some brighter weather on the horizon as we head into the new working week. We do still have a weather front to contend with through the rest of today, though, continuing to slip its way southwards across the UK through the end of the weekend. And then it's this area of high pressure developing out towards the west that brings us those sunnier skies into next week. So this weather front out in the south of the UK continues to sink its way southwards, still bringing some cloudy skies and some outbreaks of rain to the southern portion of the UK overnight and into the early hours of Monday morning. But further north, a different story. Plenty of clear spells and turning quite chilly under those clear spells too. We could see temperatures dropping into the low single figures. But generally staying that little bit milder under that cloud in the very far south of the UK. And that does mean quite a cloudy and damp start, particularly for southwestern parts of England through Monday morning, with some outbreaks and rain and drizzle across the hills. For the rest of England and Wales, though, generally a dry and bright start to the morning. For Northern Ireland, still staying dry, but perhaps a bit of mist and fog around to start first thing. And for Scotland, also a dry and bright start to the morning, although maybe one or two isolated showers across parts of Shetland and Orkney first thing. So generally staying dry and bright through much of Monday morning, plenty of sunshine on offer. That weather front does eventually sink its way southwards across the southwest of the UK, so plenty of sunshine across the board as we head in towards Monday afternoon. There might be one or two isolated showers just across eastern parts of England, but these generally quite light and quite scattered. And despite temperatures being round about average for the time of year, it will be feeling pleasant in any of that sunshine. The sunshine continues through the rest of Monday and staying dry and clear overnight. So that does mean quite a chilly start for most of us on Tuesday morning, maybe some mist and fog around, but otherwise another dry day across the board. Plenty of sunny spells on offer. Maybe one or two isolated showers still clipping across the very far southeast, but there should be more sunshine on the way as we head through Wednesday and Thursday as well. And temperatures will generally be staying around about average, but definitely feeling pleasant in the sunshine.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Desmond, good luck.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Love a bit of baking and share some hot tips. We're delighted to be joined by our baking extraordinaire, Matty Edgell, who won Great British Bake Off last year. Woo! Welcome. Congratulations as well. I'm sure you're sick of being congratulated.
I know, it's a nice reminder.
No, you like all the glory.
Yeah.
What was it like winning the Great